Your kitchen is a temple, and you treat it like a chore. It is a place of life giving, life affirming work with the most important plant allies in your life. Yet we tend to overlook the importance, the sacredness, and the role these plant spirits have on our health, relationships, and life, let alone realize their potential for the development and growth of our spiritual and magical practice. The hierarchy of the sacredness of plants is a perceptual problem on a human level, a societal construct that needs to be re examined. Our brains tend to stop noticing the things we are around often. It is a natural way to save capacity for danger by only noticing novelties and outliers. Because of this, we focus on exoticized plants or plants we use to solve health problems when they arrive and completely overlook everyday staples. We are culturally conditioned to devalue common things. We take maca supplements and leave tribulus among the weeds. As a person living in Europe, I don't need to import white sage to cleanse my room. I can use mugwort to the same or arguably better effect. I don't need specialty herbs for an elaborate working when I can use my pantry and the produce in my fridge to the same effect. Kitchen witchery has become a lighthearted trope, often stripped of its seriousness and dignity. We read blogs about adding sigils to beverages, but rarely do we hear about other works specifically calling on the energies and wisdom of these plant spirits. Tomato, garlic, potato, wheat, much less of them being spoken of in reverent tones as actual plant allies. Yet they single handedly keep us alive more than any other deity or spirit. To me, these plants, and let's not leave out animals in this matter, are the real Christ like entities, giving their lives up for us every day so that we can live. I believe everything has spirit, even dried or dead matter that carries the essence of the spirit of the whole. The carrot in my fridge carries the spirit of the egregore of carrots, wild, cultivated, and ancestral, as well as the spirit of that specific individual plant. As children, we hear that carrots are good for our eyesight. Now imagine making a carrot soup and petitioning the carrot spirit to help you improve your vision, your inner sight, or to help you spot certain things around you simply by recognizing its personhood and including it in your ritual. Spirit work is the cultivation of relationships, nothing more. There is no qualification needed. You don't need to be a relationship expert to be a friend, and you don't need a college degree in human resources to make a friend at a local pub. This relationship is collaborative. We don't command spirits to do things against their will. We ask them to help with things already in their nature. I personally believe that even many crop plants consented to be cultivated. Unlike others, like Melissa or Amanita muscaria, who either refuse to be bred into something they're not or cultivated outside their natural habitats. There is a degree of willing collaboration here. And even if a plant refuses a spiritual petition, its chemical composition stays the same. We are culinary equivalent of herbalists every day. Realizing this puts a powerful magical toolkit in our pocket that has always been there. The line between a chore and a ritual is just the state of mind and the mindfulness we put into the action. It is the same difference between lighting a candle and doing a candle magic ritual. And now, imagine cooking and digesting is the alchemical process at its core. It's a magnum opus. In the first stage, the nigredo, there is the harvest, the blackening and the decomposition, turning an ingredient from a living organism into a dead one. Albedo. The purification is the washing, peeling, cutting, and preparation. Citrinitas, the solar stage, is the application of fire to transform the work into something new. And finally, rubedo, where we consume and digest, turning material food into pure energy and new life. Our bodies are temples for the divine. By recognizing these sacrifices and taking them with gratitude, by not producing waste and treating the meal with reverence, we elevate our practice. When you enter the kitchen with this mindset, it can no longer be a chore. It must naturally become an act of devotion. If this perspective shift feels daunting, it's because we have been trained to outsource our agency to guidebooks. We've forgotten the faces of our most loyal allies. This is why I created Fructifera. It isn't a deck of food cards for trivial questions. It's a collection of 56 spirits of the pantry, the field, and the orchard. When I say we need to recognize the personhood of a carrot or an ancient collaborative spirit of wheat, I am talking about building a relationship with these spirits on a conscious level. The Fructifera deck provides the visual and linguistic anchor for that dialogue. By stripping away cultural undertones, made up keywords, and the grocery store uniformity, and focusing on the botanical reality, the plants themselves, the Latin names, the flowers, the fruit and leaves, the deck acts as a bridge. It moves these plants out of the category of grocery list and back into the category of spirit ally. You don't need a guidebook or a manual to tell you what a potato means. You need to look at it, recognize its resilience, its groundedness, and its history of sustaining entire civilization or causing famines, and just speak to it. The kitchen is only a chore if you are working alone. Fructifera is the reminder that you never are. It is time to stop looking for magic and imported resins and start looking at what is already on your cutting board. The temple is open. If you are still here, welcome to the unscripted part of this video. I wanted to talk to you more candidly about this thought process or idea that I have had or have about working with food plants as spirit allies as well. Maybe it's not relevant to you in your personal spiritual practice, but I would like to invite you to re-examine your own views on your cooperation with the plants that you use in your daily cooking, that you use in your teas, that you drink as juices, or even if you don't cook and maybe order in food. There is still plant material that is part of your diet on a daily basis. I think that the lifestyle that would exclude plants from everyday life is one in a million. You would have to be 100% carnivore of some sort. But even then, you still are dependent on other living organisms and living beings to give up their life and their essence for you to be able to complete that alchemical process and make energy and life out of something that used to be living as well. I'm not sure that there exists a living organism that feeds on purely inorganic matter. So in this way, we are part of the world and part of the food chain. I know it sounds like really weird, but it is how it is, and we are. And we tend to dissociate from our food sources and from what we eat and how we eat. And that's a problem on its own. And elevating it to a spiritual level where you recognize that these foods are actually spirits on some level, I think might be kind of revolutionary on some level. For me it was when I started to realize this. For me it was revolutionary, and it put my life a little bit upside down, to be honest. And in terms of the exoticizing and in our magical practice, only relying on things that are like to a degree other or like removed from everyday life, it's putting a barrier to practice, and it's putting a barrier towards what we deem is magical enough to use. But I think that you can, instead of chasing herbalism degrees and magical herbalism degrees and reading a book after book after book after book and historical sources and current sources and trying to fill some sort of bar of when you feel educated enough, I think we should really re-examine the fact that we are, to a degree, spirit workers already, and that we do have a plant-based practice already, and that we are just not utilizing it because it is on the spectrum of mundane everyday, and that our brains, our minds no longer see it as sacred. And maybe you do work with food as sacred. Maybe you do fall into some sort of category or label under kitchen witchery. But I would still like to ask you, do you really treat tomatoes and potatoes and garlics and onions and stuff like that to or with the same degree of reverence as you would rosemary or frankincense or myrrh or herbs that we traditionally use in a magical practice? Really examine your stance on this and ask yourself, do I actually see a peership, or do I actually see these plants as being on the same level of magical esoteric as I see other plants? Do we see some plants as more healing than others? Do we see a hierarchy between medicinal herbs and magical herbs, and between medicinal herbs and rice? Is there a difference in your mind? Is one better than other? And I think that the correct answer, and forgive me, but I think the correct answer to this is no, there is no difference. The difference is a construct. All of these plants have the same degree of magicalness, the same degree of sacredness, and under a certain lens, I think rice is more important as a spirit ally, more important as a plant, because millions and billions of people rely on it for survival. If you work with deities, I ask you, do you think that your deity has done more for you than a potato has? Because maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of doubt that if you examine these two relationships, that they are equal in any way. Yes, a deity will give you spiritual comfort. They can work with you on a magical level, but on an everyday level, you wouldn't survive without food. You would survive as an atheist because many people do. And yeah, so these are my thoughts. I would really like to know what you think about this and what your stance is. If this changed your if this changed your view in any way, or if you think that it's just blabbering and nonsense, or if this is new for me but it's old news for you. How you implement this in your practice, if this is something that has not been new for you ever. And yeah, thank you for finishing this video. I wanted to have it like nice and voiceovered and scripted, but then I was thinking that maybe I should also add a little bit of a unscripted discussion to this, because speaking on it on like an elevated level again brings this whole discussion into a level that I'm not really comfortable with. If we're talking about like something that is everyday, I think the discussion about it also needs to be, candid. So let me know what you think. Thank you for listening this far along. I'm very humbled. I'm grateful. Thank you. And I will see or hear you in the next one. Bye bye.